Yes, Bhante. So the question from last time was had to do with the sense of self, and so the person mentioned that they felt a strong attachment to self, and that this sense of attachment to this sense of self was remaining very strong, although the person had been practicing for many years. This same very strong sense of self remained just as strong as ever, and the advice the person was seeking is what practice, specific practice to incorporate in order to lessen this sense of self.
Okay. At least during meditation, if that person focuses the mind on um, it is sort of a very highly active kind of meditation. One has to think very careful, not remaining very, what you call, mentally quiet without just focusing mind on the breathing. But one has to think very carefully uh, how uh, greed or attachment arises in the person's uh, through eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind, uh, perception, volition, desire, thoughts, and examination, and so forth. There are 10 ways of looking at one's own experience. For instance, suppose when you see things uh, within you or without, outside, if the notion of self arises, even in Satipatthana Sutta, there is uh, what you call six uh, internal senses and six external senses in Dhammanupassana section, meditation on the Dhamma section. The person can find a section called uh, six internal senses and external sense bases, and when they combine together, how a fetter can arise. One of the fetters is notion, notion of self, sakkaya ditthi, view of personal, permanent entity. That can arise through the eye, ear, and so forth. And then the person must see that how that desire arises, because eyes are pleasing and agreeable. I use only eye, you can apply this method to other six senses. And therefore, you let the person or anybody listen to this part, and then they can apply it to others. Eyes are impermanent, unsatisfactory, uh, they are subject to altering, fading away, disappearance, and then the subject, they are subject to cease and subject to dispassion, and then when one sees with wisdom that this is dispassionate, and then one can see it's conditioned and dependently arisen, and therefore that is not mine, I am not that, no, it's myself. In these 12 ways, a person must see that particular phenomenon. Let me repeat this for that person or whoever listen to this to remember. Listen to it very carefully. Suppose you see an object. That object, through the eye you see the object. Why then eyes you consider to be pleasing and agreeable. And this when you see eye as pleasing and agreeable, desire arises there. Wherever something is pleasing and agreeable, underlying tendency to that is desire, definitely. And therefore, with the desire, the person cling to it. And when the person sees the object exactly as it is, the person does not cling to it. To see the object exactly as it is, one must think that this object is impermanent, unsatisfactory, subject to altering, subject to passing away, subject to disappearance, subject to cessation, subject to separation, dispassion, uh, and then the person knows that this is conditioned, dependently arisen, therefore it is not mine, no, I am not that, and this is not myself. These are the 12 ways. When one sees the object, that particular mental phenomenon, in under these 12 ways or in these 12 ways, then the person becomes disenchanted with this object. Before he was enchanted because it is pleasing and agreeable through the what object the person sees through the eye. When one sees this with wisdom, the person will be disenchanted with it. Being disenchanted, he will be dispassionate. When this person is dispassionate, the it then the person becomes the object or mental phenomenon will be separated from clinging, separated. And when separated, the mind becomes free from clinging, free. Once the mind is free, then the person knows the mind is free. That time, that moment, that instant, the birth comes to an end. Birth means becoming, coming to an end. That means the desire for clinging to permanent self will vanish from the mind. It is the desire that cling to the notion of self. When the desire to underlying tendency to this present object, underlying tendency is desire, when one sees with clear wisdom, that underlying tendency to clinging will disappear. That is how one can, uh, one should exercise the mind to free oneself from the attachment to self. So it is very active mental exercise in order to overcome notion of self. It is not very easy. I like to recommend whoever asks the question to read Mahasatipatthana Sutta. And there are two sections. One section describes how, when, and where craving arises. Other section describes how, when, and where craving ceases, comes to an end. Now, when it says the craving comes to an end, we have to interpolate something which is not mentioned in the sutta, in that sutta itself. But what we have to interpolate, we can extract from other suttas. So those 12 steps that I mentioned, I got from other suttas, uh, various places. It is mentioned in Mahanidana Sutta and some other suttas. Uh, so those are the words you have to remember. In Pali, Anityam, Dukkham, Viparinama Dhammam, Khaya Dhammam, Vaya Dhammam, Viraga Dhammam, Nirodha Dhammam, Sankatang, Paticca Samupannang, Netang Mama, Neso Hamasmi, Nameso Atta. This is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself. So uh, I gave you first in English, the English translation. Now, in order to arouse your confidence and trust in what I said in English, I mentioned the Pali words because this is not my own invention. This is what we find in the Buddha's teaching. So perhaps next time I can put them on the screen, perhaps next week. That's the last uh, time I give my Dhamma talk on the 14th. Perhaps on the 14th I put the list on the board, on the screen, so that you can copy it. Okay?
Yeah, that'd be good, Bhante. Thank you.
Okay. Next question.
Next question is a follow-up from last week's question. Is there a beginning to samsara or craving? Could you please further explain if one cannot find the beginning or the first cause to samsara and craving? Why does the Buddha teach the origin of suffering? Wouldn't this lead people to thinking that there is still a beginning or a first cause to samsara and suffering?
I think that is a good question. The beginning of samsara is, Buddha said, indiscernible. Buddha mentioned it in several places. Annamatagoyam bhikkhave sansaro pubbha kotina panyayati avidya cha bhavatanhaya cha. Because of ignorance and craving, the beginning of samsara is indiscernible. Then somebody can ask, when the craving began, and then one must say, well, if craving started at such and such a time, then somebody, a smart person, can ask, when craving started at such and such a time, what was there before craving started? Was there a time without craving? Or if somebody said, ignorance, you cannot find the beginning of ignorance, and then somebody said, well, uh, if you are very smart and enlightened, would you be able to find the beginning of ignorance? The same answer can be given there. If you find the beginning of ignorance in one point in time, then one can ask, what was there before ignorance started? Was there time without ignorance? So both are not tenable. And in short, therefore, the Buddha said, don't try to find the beginning of greed or beginning of ignorance. However, you can find the end of samsara, end of ignorance, end of craving or greed. You can find the end. How? When you begin from now, begin uh, to understand suffering now, then you can find the end of suffering through the end of craving. Similarly, when you find ignorance now, you can find the end of ignorance now. End of ignorance. The Buddha did not say end of samsara is indiscernible. He simply said beginning of samsara is indiscernible. End of samsara is discernible. You can find the end. For instance, you have to begin it right now, this moment. It is like trying to find the beginning of a circle. When you have a circle, you ask somebody to find the beginning or origin of circle. You can never find the origin of beginning of a circle. And Buddha found it. Buddha found it. Uh, so Buddha said, uh, I put this the simile of circle by myself in order to illustrate what Buddha said. Uh, when you want to find the beginning of a circle, you draw a line at any point of the circle, any the line of the circle, the what you call perimeter of the circle. You draw one line, and that is the beginning as well as the end. Similarly, the greed suffering you can find the beginning of suffering and end of suffering. Suffering arises where pleasing and agreeable things are. What are the pleasing and agreeable things? Eyes are pleasing and agreeable, ears are pleasing and agreeable, nose, tongue, body, mind are pleasing and agreeable. Then uh, form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and mind object are pleasing and agreeable. Consciousness arising through the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Consciousness also are pleasing and agreeable, where craving arises. And then eye contact, ear contact, nose contact, body contact, mind contact are pleasing and agreeable where craving arises. Feeling uh, through the eye contact, ear contact, nose contact, tongue contact, body contact, and mind contact, feeling arises, their craving arises, and then perception through the object, rupa sanya, saddha sanya, perception of form, perception of sound, perception of smell, perception of taste, perception of the tangible, perception of the one object are pleasing and agreeable where craving arises. And then the volition of form, feeling, perception, thought, and consciousness are pleasing and agreeable volition. And then desire arising through the desire for form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thought are pleasing and agreeable. Their craving arises. Craving arises from craving. And then the thought, we are called vitakka, thought, uh, through the form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and so forth, thought arises. And examination, called vichara, arising of form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thought, uh, examination, mental examination. And through that craving arises and settled out. Now, this is how craving arises. Where craving arises, there craving can cease. As I said in the circle, when you draw a line, from that line you go clockwise and come back to the line, then that is the end. When you start going from the line clockwise, the beginning of going is starting is the beginning. And when the end of the circle, that is the end of your craving. Similarly, if craving arises through the eye, and it is there that craving ceases. When craving arises through the ear, it is there that craving ceases. Similar, that is the uh, simile example. Uh, uh, so the very textual material you can find in Mahasatipatthana Sutta under mindfulness of Dhamma. Last section of mindfulness of the two sections, arising of craving and ceasing of craving to end suffering. Uh, I think this is uh, the list I will put on the screen on the 14th next time. And therefore, where craving ceases, then the suffering begins. Where craving arises, suffering arises. Where craving ceases, suffering ceases. This is exactly the same formula of dependent origination. That is, when this arises, this arises. When craving arises, suffering arises. This does not arise, this does not arise. When craving does not arise, suffering does not arise. When craving ceases, suffering ceases. In the absence of craving, suffering is absent, and so forth. The dependent origination formula applies to all these places. Okay? Uh, Next question.
Thank you, Bante. The next two questions are kind of similar, so I'll combine them. What is the difference between feelings, perception, and mental formations according to Buddhism? And the second question is asking to explain sankhara, so volitional formations in the context of dependent origination. So,
Okay. Between feeling, difference between feeling and perceptions and mental formations. A feeling arises through the contact. Depending on contact, feeling arises. If there is no contact, feeling does not arise. That is very simple. A perception is what you felt, you perceive. Otherwise, I mean, it is the feeling is the starting or trigger. It what you call clicks for you to perceive. Otherwise, perception doesn't arise. There has to be something uh, before perception for the perception to arise. And therefore, mental formations and volition are the same. Volition means will. Will is generated by the mind, by, by desire, by wish. That's called mental formations. These are the difference between these three feeling, perception, and mental formations or volitional formations. And volitional formations themselves are called sankhara. As you know, the word sankhara has very widest application. Many, many things cover by the word volition. Uh, all conditioned things are uh, created by will, volition, with ignorance, desire. And volition also called karma uh, in very famous statement Buddha said chetana bhikkhu karma vadami chetana thought also are called volition so and it's called sankhara volitional formations karma and these three words are used to mean the same thing. In one place, sankhara is used for the volitional formations. Another place, sankhara is used for anything that is that comes into existence through causes and conditions is called sankhara. Sankhara means repairing, preparing, remodeling, and so forth. Is called sankhara. Buddha defined it in Samyutta Nikaya, sankhatang abhisankaroti iti sankhara. Sankhatang abhisankaroti iti sankhara. That which comes into existence through causes and conditions will be reconditioning. It's called sankhara, reconditioning. And Buddha asks, what is reconditioning? Rupatta sankatang avisankaroti sankara. Form is renewed again and again in order to maintain the form. For instance, our body has to have food, nutriment to maintain its bodily function, its bodily appearance. Uh, Otherwise, the body becomes defunct, does not function. Feeling, uh, then uh, Rupang rupatta sankatanga pisankaroti. Vedana vedanatta sankatanga pisankaroti. Sanya sanyatta sankatanga pisankaroti iti. Sankara sankaratta sankatanga pisankaroti iti. Vijnanam vijnanatta sankatanga pisankaroti and so forth. Buddha said something that has come into existence through causes and conditions would be reconditioned. That reconditioning is called sankhara. Sankhata means what is the reconditioned with the past tense. Reconditioned. Okay?
Thank you, Bhante. The next question is, my mind doesn't want to stay on the breath longer than a minute or so, despite practicing for a few years. What would be your suggestion to improve this?
Well, if the mind does not stay in the breath, I would suggest you may try to breathe quickly, uh, very, very quickly, inhaling, exhaling for several times. Then your wandering mind would stay on the breath. Uh, because the mind is not going anywhere, but it holds on to some mental objects. It's in the mind. And therefore, you have to give one object for the mind to grab, to hold, like giving a sort of a bait to catch a fish, you put a bait. Likewise, you give something for the mind to keep coming back again and again. That object is your breath. If you lose it, then you know breath was going through the nose, and then you remember it, come back, breathe it several times very quickly, and then you will be able to keep the mind on the breath. However, you must understand meditation does not mean keeping the mind always on the breath. We use the breath at the beginning, but later on we experience feeling, perceptions, all kind of thoughts, hindrances, fetters, uh, fear, worries, and so forth. These things will come into the mind. That is very natural. And we have to deal with all of them slowly and gradually. Then it all disappears. But as I mentioned, if you use your mind, I mean, you make the mind actively engaged in something that the mind will go on holding on to. When I give you the list next week, you can use it and memorize it, take it very seriously. It is going to work very well for everybody, provided you do it very seriously. That is your homework for the next 3 months. Okay, you have 3 months to do your homework, because my after next Saturday's or, or Sunday's question and answers, I will return in March next year if I live that long. So uh, I give you the list for you to work during these 3 months, and then if when I come next March, I'll ask you to repeat it for me. You tell me whether you have studied, did your homework or not. Okay?
We'll
I
do that,
think,
Bhante. We'll study. Um, we have a couple of comments, Bhante.
yeah.
Happy birthday a day later, Bhante G. Thank
Okay.
you for all you do to advance the Dhamma wheel. Thank you so
Okay.
much for your wonderful teachings, Bhante G. Wishing you a happy, healthy, and peaceful new year of your life. And then
Okay.
other thank yous.
Thank you.
Um, do you want to take one more question, Bhante, or do you want to save it for next week?
I think maybe keep it for next week. We have gone overboard
Okay.
5 minutes. We have very little time for meditation.
Okay, we can bring that up next. We can ask it
Next
next week.
next Sunday.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Bhante.
Now let us meditate. Okay. Okay. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds, whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth. May all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere. Neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another, as a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child. Even so, towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate all the world, a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hatred or resentment, whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desire for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. With this, let us meditate at least for next 25 minutes. By means of this meritorious deed, may I never join with the foolish, may I join always with the wise, until the time I attain Nibbana. May the suffering be free from suffering, may the fear-struck be free from fear, may the grieving be free from grief, so too may all beings be, from the highest realm of existence to the lowest. May all beings arisen in these realms, with form and without form, with perception and without perception, be released from all suffering and attain to perfect peace. Excellent, excellent, excellent. With this, I like to share my metta with all, as I do normally. May all those who are suffering in hospitals, taken care of by doctors, nurses, and hospital staffs, may they recover very soon and return to their normal healthy life, continue their Dhamma practice, meditate, and liberate themselves from samsaric suffering. May the doctors, nurses, and hospital staffs also find time to practice Dhamma, meditation, and attain liberation from samsaric suffering. May those who have lost their loved ones, may they also find time to practice Dhamma, meditation, understand the nature of life, and then meditate and attain liberation from samsaric suffering. Those who are in various trouble spots in the world, may they also find time to understand the nature of greed, hatred, and delusion, which cause a lot of trouble in the world, in you and everybody. May they find time to practice Dhamma, meditation, and attain liberation from samsaric suffering. May all those who are in the northern direction, northeastern direction, eastern direction, southeastern direction, southern direction, southwestern direction, the western direction, northwestern direction, up, below, down. May they all be well, happy, and peaceful, and they all attain liberation from samsaric suffering. I end this session this morning and see you uh, next Saturday on the 14th.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Bhante.
Bhante.
Thank you,
Sadhu,
Bhante.
sadhu.
Sadhu.
Thank you,
Thank
Bhante.
you.
Thank
Bhakti
you.
Amma.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Bhante.
Um,
Sadhu, sadhu.